Talks. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. So, welcome to Inspiring Your Talks with us today, a platform where untold stories and powerful voices are invited. And that's why we have you here. So, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. I'm working on a screenplay, so been working away
Okay.
this whole entire day. It was my birthday
Oh,
2 days ago, so just on very little sleep right now. But
oh,
looking forward to our chat.
but your glow doesn't look like that. You're kind of under it. But okay, we'll initiate with the conversation. And thank you for being here with us and giving your time to us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So, ma'am, we would love to initiate the whole conversation and the whole mood of it with you giving a one-liner introduction to the world that, that's what Meghna is all about.
Um, Meghna is an author, a journalist, completely self-made, a mother to two beautiful
Wow.
girls, and
Okay.
not an Abla Nari, not a Krantikari also perhaps, but just a bold Nari in a sari.
That's a very quirky way of introducing yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. So, ma'am, starting off and keeping the conversation light, our first question would be to you, of course, being an author. What that you've written, various things in various genres, fiction, non-fiction, journalism. So, what inspired you to become an author at start? Like, what came into your head when you thought of it?
Right, right. So, a story is basically rebellion wrapped in empathy. So, I became a writer because for me, silence was never an option. So,
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was this one time as a kid, I watched this crow was pecking, mercilessly at this little tiny, beautiful baby squirrel. And I ran to
Okay.
save it, I remember. And my mother said, "You can't
Mm-hmm.
save it because that's just how nature is." And I felt so bad about it. I still remember that. I think that's when my first poem came out, and I must have
Okay.
been like 8 or 9. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was for that age also quite angry, quite idealistic, bleeding with justice. And of course, the poem was never published. I just remember writing it. I don't even know what it was about. I just remember that image of the crow and the squirrel. But I think that
Mm-hmm.
fire is something that's never quite gone out. So I think, as Rumi also says, don't get lost in your pain. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and know that one day your pain will become your cure. And I think that's something that all of us need to embrace. And there's also this beautiful other saying that, the reason I've become a writer is to channel that pain,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the pain or tragedy, but also the beauty that all of us experience in these lived experiences that we call life.
Mm-hmm.
But what inspired me to remain a writer, to be honest, there's this book called The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
You must also
Okay.
read it. And it
Yeah.
sits on my desk like it's like a spiritual inhaler, so this in this age of overstimulation on social media and so much performative performance that we see. I think this
Mm-hmm.
books like this bring me back to what matters, that some things like there's such a beautiful quote in this book that time isn't precious because it's scarce, time is precious
Mm-hmm.
because it's presence. And we often forget to be present in anything that we are in. And I think if we just remember to do that, and for me, writing is that, and this is a line I hold very close because for me, it reminds me that we must honor this moment, whether I'm writing or, bleeding or simply watching my daughters chase butterflies in the rain. I try to remind myself to remain present.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for a writer is also very important.
So that enlightenment that comes on a foundation level is very important for anybody to build a skill or that kind of reflects onto their future. Right, as you just said, that whole squirrel story did impact you, and it's still there in you. So I get that, and it's a beautiful story. So now that you've talked about your previous experiences, I also wanted to know that what were those small things in your past or your upbringing or how your childhood was, you this whole line that you could just, never leave this. So how come?
I was born in Shimla. I grew up in Delhi. Then my parents were with the income tax with the IRS. So they got transferred to Bombay. So, and then I was abroad for 10 years. Then I moved back to Mumbai. And, growing up, say, for example, in Shimla, right? We were in a joint
Okay.
family. It was a lot of fun. There was cold
Okay.
air and warm secrets, but it was also a home where I saw, I mean, in that time, like, 30, 40 years ago, I saw that in a home where women very quietly bore everything, right? Like whether it was bruises or betrayals or expectations or being just put into a box all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing respectability, and we are still so obsessed with this, especially our gender, right? As women,
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing responsibility and expectations, like, this kind of gilded cage, like it's a
Mm-hmm.
cage that's gilded with gold. So um, it looks good, but you're inside a cage and you're put into this box and this cage that you can't get out of. And you're told that you'll only be happy if you live within this cage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the time I saw that I would write what those women, like from my masis to my nani to my neighbors to my friends, and I will write the things that they couldn't say. Stories that end with "or fir kya hua," so like also make it engaging because no one wants to be talked down to also. So I think I
Yeah.
carry their silences on my shoulders. Those the women
Uh-huh.
that I grew up with. It's an honor and a nod to them every time I tell a story. And I think their truths are always in my pen. So, for example, my Nani Ji, she was the loveliest woman. And she was not sent to school because, patriarchy. And yet, she didn't even know what the word feminism is, right? Yet, she was widowed at the age of 35. She never worked. She was given 400 rupees a month at that time. And she had five children, four of whom were daughters. And everybody said, okay, send your one son to a private school, but save your money and send your
Mm-hmm.
daughters to, government schools. Um, she still said, no, all my daughters will be educated equally as my son. And because of her, and
Okay.
that time, 1960s or 50s, at that time,
Uh-huh.
because of her firm belief, and she didn't know what feminism is, but she was
Okay.
the biggest feminist. She stood up for her own daughters. And because she stood up for them, my mother went on to, be a gold
God.
medalist at Chandigarh
Yeah.
University, Punjab University. And she went on to break the UPSC exam and, became
Yeah,
a
I'm still there.
officer.
Hello.
Yeah. And she became an officer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am, I can clearly hear you.
Okay. So I think
Yeah,
for
sorry.
me, those are the stories
Mm-hmm.
that, I want to really speak about. I feel like people today think that noise is strength, but sometimes there's a lot of and more strength to be found in silence. And I think that's something we should learn also from the women in our families, that there is strength in silence also, but you have to know when to keep quiet and when to speak up. There's a right time for it, for everything.
I mean, I'm out of words, like how you could just put everything, like, in, I mean, you're an author. Who am I even talking to and explaining to? But it's a very good way of, bringing everything together and connecting it with your family and everything. And of course, we all have an impact of everything that revolves around us. So I get that. So, mom, all this time when you've been, observing around you, maybe your friends, family, everything, how firmly do you believe that the stories have a very crucial impact, or
Mm,
it brings a change in the society, or does it have like that hardcore,
mm,
you can say your whole uh, idea has been reciprocated on the society through your books. So
yeah.
how strong do you feel about it?
I think I absolutely agree with you. Stories, I think, humanize what statistics perhaps numb. So, for example, we all know that domestic violence is, one of the biggest 33% of women in India alone are victims of domestic violence. That's like 200
Mm-hmm.
million women. That's a very large number. And almost
Mm-hmm.
that's one in every three women. And
Mm-hmm.
when you read the statistics, it doesn't hit you as much as so, like when you read about it. So, Boys Don't Cry, where it's about my personal experience with domestic violence and being in a relationship like that. And you won't believe it, after it came out, it's from a woman's perspective, right? But then I remember it was launched
Mm-hmm.
at Jaipur Lit Fest, and the number of, there were like, I don't know how many hundreds of people in the audience, and the number of men who spoke up. and said
Okay.
we are victims of domestic violence, but we are not allowed to even speak about it because it's not, it's like emasculating. And the number of men who private message me saying we are also victims of domestic violence, but we are not allowed to talk about it because
Gosh, I
we're not
have
man enough.
goosebumps.
Yeah. Can you imagine? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's heartbreaking to read that because, of course, violence is not, I mean, of course, women are usually prone to being victims in cases like this. But even if there's 1% of men who are victims, we must learn to speak up for them also. It's not about your gender, it's about the issue. And I think that's where we get lost, you know. And I think that was a great equalizer because a man started crying in public, you know, there were goosebumps and tears, and it was a very personal experience, like almost we're talking in our living room as best friends. And I think to me, the
Mm,
fact that he didn't feel ashamed anymore, that my book gave him the power to come out and speak about it and to say, you know what, it's not my fault that I was hit. I don't deserve to be hit. I don't deserve to be abused.
mhm,
And I am not ashamed of that burden anymore. I'm freeing myself of that burden
mhm,
that my toxic partner unleashed on me. And I think that is revolution to me. And that is what stories can do. And I think, like, even Arundhati Roy, I guess to quote her,
mm,
she said there's no such thing as the voiceless. There are only those people who are deliberately silenced. And I think that's
mm.
the people that we should keep in mind, that whoever is deliberately silenced, writing stories, listening to stories, reading stories are the way to find the voice for the voiceless, even if that voiceless person is you.
Um, okay. So I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Some
no
technical
worries. Yeah.
glitch, I believe. Yeah. So I I really
Mm,
appreciate of you telling me this whole story with this one person that you with. But other than that, where is that that one real life story or that moment when you
mm,
felt that whatever I've done, whatever books have, the efforts that I've put in, you know, I think I've done a great job. Like I've been like a voice to somebody, or that one moment or that one story that you have to tell the world, wherein they were like, you really had like that strong feeling of saying that जो भी मैंने अभी तक करा है, it has
yeah.
been equated to that, it has been justified. I want to know that one story, and the world wants to know that one story.
I think for me, when I first wrote about, again, the same issue, domestic violence, I think in 2015, 10 or 11 years ago for Femina. And I'm not kidding. I think उस time पे कोई इसके बारे में बात नहीं करता था. Like not so openly. Now it's become, people are unafraid to voice it. But at that time, I think people were still very, it was like a taboo. तो यू वोंट बिलीव इट, कितने लोगों ने मुझे मैसेज किया, स्पेशली उस टाइम फेसबुक वाज मोर पॉपुलर. द नंबर ऑफ डीएम्स आई गॉट अ डांसर गर्ल, आई थिंक फ्रॉम उड़ीसा, who said that her boyfriend broke her back and she couldn't dance anymore. I had a very
Okay.
famous theater veteran actress call me up and she said, Meghna, my ex-husband threw me out of a moving car, another very famous man. And I had a man who messaged me in tears, and he said, "Your story made me cry because my girlfriend hit me on the face with a hot kettle. So I'm also a victim of domestic violence in that way." And people were just opening up their most private, intimate moments, and they're showing me their deepest scars because my story resonated with them. And I think that to me is just the power of storytelling. How, it brings us all together, and how it shows us how connected we are as human beings. And we feel like we are alone in our tragedy, but we are not. We have so many people. Even like when I had a miscarriage, I just wrote about it. I wrote about it for a mint. And the number of even men who said that our wives have experienced loss and nobody has articulated it in this way. And
Mm,
we have cried and cried reading your articles. So I think talking about issues that are considered taboo, or
mm,
talking about things that where we feel alone,
mm,
like we feel like almost cursed with what has happened to us. I think the minute we let go of that and imagine us all being united as soul spirits, that we're all undergoing tragedy in some form or the other, or we will in some form, or even the wealthiest of people, the most beautiful of people, whose lives look insta worthy perfection, right? Trust
yeah.
me, met the wealthiest, the most beautiful, famous people, and there are cracks in everybody's lives. And if they don't show it publicly, you hear about it.
Indeed,
It's all connected, no matter where we come from.
indeed. Uh, First of all, I mean, proud of you. Kudos to you that you have that capability to pick such bold topics and, be that voice for that percentage of people who are voiceless or silenced, as you said right now. But now tackling with topics like these also have, certain impact on you personally. You have to go to certain consequences. Do you
Right.
think bringing up topics like this have impacted your personal life, or you must have faced somebody or somebody talked or pinpointed maybe, or people have issues because you are talking on topics like that. So have you ever faced that?
I mean, I've got trolled a lot. I remember, when Aziz Ansari, that whole case had come up, I think 7, 8 years or 6 years ago, maybe. And I
Uh-huh.
had actually defended him. of course, a very proud feminist, but at the same time, I feel like you have to look at each incident
Hmm.
objectively. You can't just say feminism
Hmm.
feminism is men versus women. It's about women and men versus patriarchy. So I've always
Correct.
held on to that belief. So I remember I wrote an article for First Post where I said that, bad foreplay is not rape. And the amount I got trolled for that article till today, like people are angry about it.
Uh,
But I spoke my truth because my interpretation of that particular incident, and I read it in complete detail across several, mediums, and that was my interpretation of it. I may have been wrong. I'm not saying what I say speak is ultimate truth, but I think
mhm,
we need to be unafraid of being our authentic selves. And if we feel something and if it speaks to our truth, it speaks to our core, we
mhm,
must be unafraid. So, there's a very lovely saying that today also only I saw and I put it up on my Insta stories where if you're an ocean, be an ocean.
mhm,
Don't be a pond because people can't swim. And I really like that saying because it tells you not to shrink yourself. And we keep, especially as girls, again, I've been taught like till I was 25, 30 to keep shrinking myself to accommodate other people's feelings and emotions and not to upset the apple cart, not to rock the boat and all of that. Adjust कर लो, ज़्यादा attention मत draw करो अपने आप पे. And you can't live your
mhm,
life like that because, I'm tired of being told calm
mhm,
down if I'm angry, or smile more if I'm sad, or be grateful if I want justice. Even when I became a mother and I spoke about
mhm,
how difficult the whole journey is, people's immediate feedback was that you should show gratitude that you were able to have kids and that you have kids. But that means there's almost a halo around being a mother where you're not allowed to like express your true experiences.
You were saying about the whole thing, and I did cut you in between. When you were saying this whole time when people were
Mm.
telling you to be grateful about having kids, so I please want
Yes,
you to
yes, yes.
continue from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just I think I write about gender because I think patriarchy doesn't have any GPS, right? It's everywhere. So I
Yeah.
think nobody's one is not born, but I think we rather become women, right? As we experience life.
Mhm,
So I think that's the reason. I think Simone de Beauvoir had said this that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. So I think that's what we must all strive for in our journey, in whatever way we
mhm,
can, whatever way path feels comfortable to us, and not there's no set path, there's no set way. So just sort of having the agency to choose your own path, and then having the courage to follow it. I think that's what's important.
mhm. So I'm like, there are a lot of people who might be facing the same issue, like dealing with the public, dealing with the families, probably
Yeah,
censorship too, right? So
yeah.
what message do you have for writers or aspiring authors who, want to be in the same field or talk on the similar topics? So how should they deal with the same?
Um, for writers, I think you're asking about what advice to writers generally.
Yeah, 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 correct.
So I think with writing, I think first of all, the one thing I always tell everybody is just get out of your own way. So you must absolutely, write like you're drunk and then edit like you're sober. Um,
Okay.
and also, I think very important is to get not be a gatekeeper to your own dreams. So, like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a completely self-made author, no mentors, no hand holding, completely self-created. I didn't even go to literature. I didn't study literature in school. I didn't go to a writing school. Nothing, none of that. I, in fact, studied economics and did my MBA, and I was in the corporate world, and I became a journalist, and then I became a writer because storytelling really called out to me. So I think don't become a writer and leave your full-time job. This is the second question I get asked a lot because unless you have a lot of inheritance or you manage to save up, I would advise, because writing, at least books, does not have money, the kind of money you need to,
Okay.
live a decent life. So I would say always keep your full-time job going. That's what even I did. I worked for the first 5 years. I had a full-time job. I was working
Okay.
abroad while I was writing. So I think first test the market, see if your stories are selling, and then take the leap of faith. But you have to learn to embrace solitude. And that's something I keep hearing from people, that I want to write, but I'm not getting time. You have to make time. You have to create your space. You have to have people around you respect that you're writing. So unless you stand up for yourself as a writer, because understand, it's not an Insta caption, right? You're generating an entire book. It takes years and years, and you have to work and learn to
Both.
work in silence without being seen. So that ability to do something for yourself without being
Very
acknowledged
lengthy process indeed.
is a
Mhm.
very difficult process. I think most people get stuck over there.
Mhm.
And then once they get published, if they do well, then the sort of complacency or arrogance sets in, then again they're unable to write. So I think you have to find a good balance between uh, learning to sort of work in silence, and then also learning that once your work is out there in the world, you can embrace the spotlight. So I think you have to be a little bit of a dichotomous person for to be a writer in today's world.
So talking about the attributes like that, what are your
Mm.
top three books or top three authors that you're following currently, and
Mm.
why?
So I think I just finished, in fact, Let Them by Mel Robbins. So I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but currently I've been enjoying it. So I think it was like a
Okay.
whispered slap. It's like, so the premise is quite simple. It's basically like, let
Mm-hmm.
people judge you, let people walk away, let people doubt you, and don't chase, don't explain yourself, and don't perform for other people. So for me, that's a very important life lesson to learn. And I wish, especially this performative actions that women are taught, it's very important. So, you don't have to be everyone's cup of chai, and that's okay. Some people
Like a
prefer
people
coffee.
pleaser.
So, like just,
Yeah.
yeah, don't be a people pleaser. Don't, if somebody wants to leave you as a friend or in a relationship or even in the family, let them. If somebody doesn't
Mm-hmm.
love you, let them. If somebody, don't explain yourself or debase yourself by trying to fit in someone else's version of who you should be. You should only be your own version. So I think
Mm-hmm.
she's not about getting permission from people. She's about giving power to yourself, that you detach yourself without becoming a cold person, and you
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself even to be misunderstood without losing your voice. Everybody doesn't have to understand what you're trying to communicate. And as
Mm-hmm.
a woman, especially, see, you're going to be judged for everything, right? For speaking up, for
Yeah.
getting divorced, for single parenting, or for writing fearlessly, or
Mm-hmm.
voicing your opinions. And I think Let Them is that reminder that uh, it's not about indifference, it's about freedom and how to enjoy it. So it's a very powerful book, and I think all women should read it. Then the
Mm-hmm.
second book I
Yeah.
just read, in fact, 700 pages of it. Kiran Desai, I don't know if you've read her work.
Um,
She's a Booker winning, very famous international author of Indian origin. And she's written her novel after winning the book after 20 years. The Loneliness of
okay.
Sunny and Sonia. So I was lucky enough to get a pre-release copy from Penguin. And it's a very quiet,
Oh.
devastating story about two immigrants, the clashing of identity. And
Mm-hmm.
it made me think about the push and pull between becoming and belonging. That
Mm-hmm.
Sonia, the protagonist, she wants to preserve her past like a pressed flower, and Sunny, on the other hand, he wants to torch it, torch it all. And I think they're both grieving versions of, themselves that they never got to live. And I think a lot of us go through that. And of course, like I said, the power of now. Also, just always keep reading it and going back to it, and just understanding present.
Well, that's too much of marketing of that particular book, I would say. Author would be very happy.
Actually, you could read this
So,
book and read all my books instead.
so Mom, now that you've talked about also financial independence for women in your books,
Mm.
so I wanted to know upfront that why did you pick a topic like that, and how did it come to you? And of course, we all know, you and I, we both know that it's very, very crucial. I've gone
Absolutely.
through a lot. You've gone through a lot. Everybody, and especially you've
Yeah.
said that women are taught to not to be a certain way. Then
Yeah.
why this? And how did you, treat this whole situation with people through your book?
I think financial freedom is very important, especially for women, because it allows you to get out of bad relationships, uh, bad jobs, bad situations. And I have two daughters now, and the one thing I will teach them is to always have this get lost fund, where you secretly
That's a
have.
good way.
And I'm giving you a very practical advice. No, I don't know how many.
Uh-huh.
I think I wish I'd been told this earlier. Have a
Mm-hmm.
private account that nobody knows about, where you squirrel away whatever you're earning through investments or your job or whatever it is, or through freelancing or your inheritance, whatever. Keep some money aside for yourself and don't let anyone have access to it. Don't even tell anyone about it. Only put it in
I
your
believe
will.
secretly every woman is doing this somewhere.
I
Secretly.
think
And
women
they
should
should.
because, yes, absolutely, because I feel like it can give you a lot of freedom to exercise your own agency and to make choices that otherwise you won't be able to. For example, like I meet so many women who are financially dependent on their husbands, and
Mhm.
everyone is very aware of the power dynamics, right? Especially the men. And because of that, they will beat the woman, they will cheat on her, they will abuse her, they will ill treat her, and the lady is expected to put up with it because they're like, "Tu jayegi kahan? You have nowhere to go.
Mhm.
You don't have money for a house of your own to rent or to buy. You don't have money to raise the kids. So where are you going to go?" And never
Mhm.
allow someone to have that kind of power over you, however much in love you are, or even if it's your own family. So I think having your own money just gives you so much freedom, and especially for women because we were not raised this way. And I think we, like this couple of few generations in India, have started making their own money. But before that, there was no such. When I was growing up, my mother was one of the few working women, and I grew up with a very
Mhm.
strong, independent working woman, and I was a key latch kid. Like,
That explains it all.
yeah, that explains it all. And
Yeah.
it really, yeah, she changed our lives, like my brother and me. And
Beautiful.
like because of her sacrifices and because of her intelligence and her, she was very, she came from a very middle class family. And then, she was so good with money, with investments rather. And at that time, it was unheard for women to go and buy a house, for example. And she would take me with her and she said, "हम ये घर खरीदेंगे." And I remember the brokers, the agents would get shocked and they would call us sir. क्योंकि उनको समझ
Wow.
ही नहीं आ रहा था कि दो औरतें का, and they look over her shoulder कि
She'd be so proud to
हाँ,
see
पापा
this.
नहीं आए आपके कि भाई भैया नहीं आया आपका।
Where's the man?
उनको बिलीव ही नहीं हो रहा था कि दो औरतें
Yeah.
घर खरीद सकती हैं विद देयर ओन मनी। So, uh,
I can imagine the faces now.
so I think it's good to shake up the system sometime. Now, of course, it's like 20 years later, 10 years later. Now, of course, it's normal, but uh, everything that we see that shocks the world today will be normal after 10 years. So don't be afraid to be different from
Yeah.
other people because your different today is going to be the norm tomorrow. So be
Maybe you're
unafraid.
creating it. Maybe you're
You're
creating it.
creating it.
The
Yeah, you're
fire
creating your
needs
own path.
to,
Yeah.
yeah. So, mom, now that you've said this, I have this, I'm intrigued and very curious to ask you this. Do you think, and of course, you've done this indirect, kind of your research work when you've been uh,
Hmm.
talking to all people from all ethnicity, in all genders and everything. Do
Yeah.
you think that personal identity
Hmm.
and dependency and money are
Hmm.
correlated when it comes to build a future? Do you think that if you are dependent, per se, I'll give you an example in correlation, if you're dependent on somebody, you
Hmm.
forget the path of creating a personal identity. Or maybe if you have both, you are bad with money, then maybe that's affecting the other two factors. So do you
Hmm.
think that's somewhere correlated or has an impact on women or men?
Absolutely, I think it's all correlated. As much as even as artists, we don't like to think about business. The fact is that the artists who are doing the best today are the ones who also have a very sharp, who have a lot of business sense. They have very sharp acumen when it comes to money. So I
Uh-huh.
think again, you have to keep upskilling, right, in life. So if you're not, for example, I'm terrible with technology. I don't understand technology, but I keep trying to upskill. For me, even like, understanding how to work the printer in my house is a big achievement. But
Okay.
at the same time, even if I fail 20 times and get frustrated, I will not stop till I learn something as simple as that. Um, so I think it's all related. You have to push yourself, especially in the corners of your life that you're most afraid of. Whether it's technology, whether it's finances. I know women are always, it's always assumed that women, उनके सामने पैसे की बात मत करो क्योंकि उनके पल्ले ही नहीं पड़ेगा. We've heard this so many times that why should I talk to you about investments,
No.
because you even know anything about finance. And I was a business journalist, and I've heard this a lot, the sort of pedantic way of talking down to women when it comes to financial independence. So, but again, I say the same thing, stop shrinking yourself. The world will adjust to your different with the new, making it the new norm. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
buckle up. I think can't be afraid of the journey. So, and I always say this, people always assume that ambition is unfeminine or making money and being brazen about it is unfeminine. No, it's actually divine because you're respecting yourself and there's a God inside all of us. So in that you're respecting God, right? And but I always say you don't have to be a hard person. You don't have to be loud about things. Like for example, be like a peach, right? So a peach looks very pretty from the
Yeah.
outside. It's very soft to touch and taste. It's very lush. It's very fragrant. But at
Mm-hmm.
its core, there's this, like hard, almost impenetrable pit, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this it has a seed inside it that will not yield, no matter how sweet the exterior is. So be like a peach, like wear softness as a disguise. You don't have to be hard on the outside um, to show your strength. You can carry that strength internally because the whole universe inside you can be resilient. Um, but don't always allow the world to chew through that. So you don't have to show that side of yourself through words as much as actions. So keep that part of yourself, that strength that you have also within you, and embrace it softly. It doesn't have to be loud. I mean, do it your way.
Now that you,
Yeah.
hmm sorry, so now that you gave such a nice
Mm.
example, I
Mm.
remember this one time I was talking to this person and they said, be like a duck. You see, a duck is so, it's like it's enjoying the world, it's seeing everything out there, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful and calm. But what's happening below the water? It's peddling
It's deadly.
continuously, 24/7. So you need not tell the world that you're peddling, you know. You can keep your calm at
Yes,
the same.
absolutely. Exactly. You put it so well, very eloquently put.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
ma'am, now that you've told me about a lot of background, a lot of things, and one of them is business journalism. Then,
Yeah.
if you could have to choose from business journalism and being an author, what would you pick? And why?
I think I would always pick being an author. Uh, but I also feel like being a journalist, for example, really helped me understand how to write with deadlines. It helped me respect other people's opinion, to be able to take constructive feedback. It also taught me how to write with brevity, because we had to come up with headlines very quickly and the churn rate was very high. There was no time to really register, so you
Mm-hmm.
digest information very quickly, and then you're already acting like a subject matter expert on that very quickly. So I think because of that, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, like for example, I've written hundreds of articles for many publications, international and domestic, and I've never missed a deadline. No matter what is going on in my life, I have never missed a
Mm-hmm.
deadline, and everybody who works with me is like, you are so professional because of that. So my publishers always say you're so professional. The people I've worked with, even the magazines, the newspapers, they all come back and ask me for more work. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
professionalism is also what journalism taught me, that how to work well with other people, respect deadlines, respect the subject matter, and most importantly, I'm a truth seeker. I need to get to
Okay.
the core of the truth in any situation. I think that
Mm-hmm.
both journalism and writing get to. Journalism is getting to the truth of the facts, whereas I think writing is getting to the truth of experiences. And I think both those, of course, my interpretation of that truth, whether it's a fact or whether it's an experience, will be my own truth, of coming with many biases of my own lived experiences. But for me, that is the most important thing, to capture this, shine the light on these dark corners of our life that nobody wants to talk about, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully make it, light up an entire room.
And maybe if you're so much, into research and facts and figures, maybe that's the reason you don't like fiction books and you prefer because you're a truth seeker, right? And
Truth.
I mean, there are a lot of women that because of kind of books that you've written that who made them speak up, right? Now I
Hmm.
want to know what made Meghna, that is you, speak up. What is that one moment that your
Hmm.
balloon or your bubble was popped, and you're like,
Huh.
it's high time I gotta write about this. If you would like to share.
Huh. Sure, sure. I think once I remember I moved back to Bombay, and my brother's a stand-up comedian, and I said, "Chalo,
Wow.
Roshan Abbas, yeah, Saurabh Pant." So Roshan Abbas was, I think, the first version or first time or second year of perhaps of the Spoken Fest. And
Mm-hmm.
I just moved back to Bombay. So he said, if your brother's so funny, you're also funny, why don't you come on stage and do a comedy, like, like a little
Oh my
skit.
God.
I
Oh
went
my
on
God.
stage, and the Bombay's biggest influencers, biggest media people were all there. I remember hundreds and hundreds of people, and I went on stage,
Oh.
and I started speaking about what I thought was very funny. Not
Mm-hmm.
one person laughed. And I have never felt so exposed and embarrassed in my entire life. And that's where my comedy career started and obviously ended immediately. But to me, but the funny thing is, I don't know if it's a Bombay thing or whether people are just kind inherently, that despite that debacle, after the show got over, so many people came up to me and they said, "You were so brave that, even though you got the kind of response you did, you were still smiling, you were still speaking up, you didn't stop, you finished the performance and then you left the stage." And it really made me realize that it's not about um, how other people perceive your life or your work or what you're doing. It's about whether you are able to stick by your own side, no matter how difficult the circumstances, how embarrassing or how far and publicly you failed, as long as you hold your hand till the very end. And I think if you do it with conviction that, okay, like for example, writing a book is exhausting, but if I finish
Mm-hmm.
writing that book, I have showed up for myself. I've showed up for as a nod to my own talent, as a nod to my own dreams and ambitions. And that is what people will respect more than, say, even the book itself. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. Complete the task that you set out to do, complete the dreams that you have, complete the journey that you have undertaken. Don't leave yourself hanging midway. And
I love how motivated you are. I truly love that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, even a relationship, even if it ends, that doesn't mean it's a failure. It means you completed that journey with that particular person, right? So that taboo of divorce or taboo of breakups or whatever stigma that is still a little bit there, it doesn't matter because what we perceive as complete is not what the universe sees as completion. So I think that's also something we need to like sort of register and maybe talk about a bit more.
How come are you so passionate about everything? Like, how are you able to seek a lesson out of everything that you do? Maybe you're getting mocked at a stage, or maybe it's a ruined relationship. How are you able to extract like a certain lesson out of everything? Like, ma'am, I've seen a lot of people being passionate about things, but they just
Yeah.
keep things hanging. And you switching your careers left, right, and center, and
Yes,
still
yes.
looking like I would say a peach and a duck. Like, how are you able
Yeah.
to do that? I want to know that secret. It's personally for me and the world.
Because I think in some way, in whatever little way, I want to leave behind a legacy.
Hmm.
I want to, like I mentioned earlier, my ancestors. So I want to write like my ancestors are watching, like my masis, my nannies are all watching, looking over my shoulder, and they're all my, guardian angels now. And I'm doing it for them to complete their stories and also for my daughters of what they will read of their mother once I'm no longer here. So it's almost a nod to generations of women before and after us that we owe them this much, yeah. We need to tell our stories, we need to be unafraid of it. And even if it burns our throat and churns our stomachs, it's okay. We have to learn to say it even louder, and we have to accept that failure, this whole notion of being afraid to fail, people just constantly gatekeep their own dreams because they're so afraid to start, because they're so afraid of failing, because they're already thinking कि इस किताब लिखने पर होने क्या
Hmm.
वाला है? कोई पढ़ेगा इस किताब को, मुझे अवार्ड्स मिलेंगे, कोई खरीदेगा, will it be a bestseller? That is not your concern. You first focus on the story, finish writing the book in the best way that you can, and then don't think of failure as a bad thing. Think of failure as feedback. I'm standing there on that stage, never so vulnerable in my entire life. But I still took up public speaking. I wasn't afraid to go back on stage because, even judgment, for example, like you mentioned earlier, that what happens when people trolls judge you or whoever judges you, I
Right.
look at it as jealousy in drag. I'm like, there's so many people out
You're
there
like,
who want the life that you have, and we don't realize it. So
yeah.
I'd always say, don't be afraid of judgment or failure. And I think that will really get you very far in life.
Hmm. I believe that you carry that certain level of confidence about yourself. If you think
Hmm.
everybody who's judging you, or maybe
Yeah.
mocking at you, or maybe seeing you from another angle that you don't want to see, you're like, it's just a hurdle. I mean, I'm gonna, pass through that anyways. So
Absolutely.
that's a nice way. But now that you had such a successful journey, and you're able to create that one for yourself, of course, you worked hard for it.
Hmm.
What are the few things if you could change about your past,
Hmm.
your work line and your work line? What would that be?
I think learning to market myself better. I feel like women, especially, we hold ourselves back a lot because we've been taught to keep diminishing ourselves. Not we're taught to
Mm-hmm.
not occupy space. So I think that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Also, understanding that your journey is very unique to yourself. Like, for example, my friends who went to MBA school with me are now earning like 20, 30, 40, 50 times more. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't get jealous of that. I don't envy that because I only look at my life's journey as something I was meant to take. So almost a philosophical viewpoint on your own life journey and not stacking yourself up against other people's lives. Because I think that is something we're so obsessed with as human beings. We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And trust me,
You
everybody
did
has their
that to
own.
yourself in the beginning?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I kept saying, what am I doing here? Look at everybody around me. Mediocre people are doing so much better because they're able to market themselves better or able to earn more. So you define your own parameters of success. For me now, success is a freedom to get up in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and be able to write, to have made a life for myself where I have the massive privilege of being able to wake up every morning and following my passion, following my dreams every single day. And I've worked so hard to set up a whole life like that. For me, that is massive success. And it doesn't matter. It's not, of course, awards are
That's what
great,
to that.
books selling
Hmm.
well, great. But that internal journey I have with myself, that is the true success where I can tell myself, Meghna, you made it because you created a life for yourself that you fought for and that you deserve. And that is the greatest success. Trust me, nothing else matters.
I have goosebumps over goosebumps now, thanks to you. So, okay, I'm not gonna sleep tonight because I'm gonna be thinking, oh, what am I doing with
Oh,
my life?
wow.
Look at what. So now we're coming to the lightning session, and I want
Oh,
like
okay.
a small, yeah. So I want like small little answers from you on these things. Okay,
Okay.
so a book that changed your life.
Um, right now, let them.
Okay. One stereotypes about women that you wanna end ASAP.
We are weak.
Okay. Writing at 5 a.m. in the morning or writing in the midnight.
Before kids midnight, after kids 5 a.m. That's the only time I get.
Okay, what if you had the power to, what you want your daughters to become? If you had the control over that.
In actual terms, actresses, because I was not allowed to become one when I was younger. But
Oh,
I just want them to
wow.
be, yeah, my father was very conventional, so he said, no, no. But I
You
would love
could be
them.
one. You wanted to be one.
I wanted
What
to
at
be
what age
one.
did you think
Long
about
back,
that?
like when I was 19, 20, I got approached also, and my father said, nothing doing, this is not a good industry. And this is also a long time back. Now, of course, it's something that I always regret. I think I would have enjoyed
Oh.
it. So, but anyway,
Well, your dimples that you get. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe.
I think be the best version of yourself, like even for you, right? Be the best version of yourself. And I think any human being That's the only thing that matters.
Right. Okay, ingredients to a healthy life, a mentally healthy life. What would they be?
Um, don't lie. I feel like I have watched people annihilate, self immolate because they just cannot speak the truth. And I think speaking, first of all, admitting the truth, searching for the truth, and then being able to speak the truth is meant for very courageous people. But that is also where true liberation and freedom lies in your life experience. So I think that's the one lesson I've taken away. Lying leads to insecurity, jealousy, confusion, miscommunication. And I think that's the one thing I'll tell people to never do. Don't lie. There is greater courage in speaking the truth than speaking a lie, because lies feel convenient, but the truth will get you much further.
So, okay, what would Meghna Pant tell her 20-year-old self if she could?
My 20-year-old self?
Yeah.
Take the bikini shots. No, but again, like the same thing, to stop shrinking yourself. The world will adjust to whatever you decide to do in your life. So you buckle up, you don't be afraid of the journey, and just, you know, um, when the world sleeps, let your demons rise to dance, and you will have to work at least 10 to 20% harder than anybody else if you don't want to be an average Joe. So if you want to excel in something, they say 10,000 hours and all that, but you can only get those 10,000 hours if you are willing to put in that extra work. And for that, just believe in yourself. That's all you need to do, and drown out all external noises. The world will adjust to who
Distraction.
you want to be.
Hmm. Right. So, what's the best piece of work of yours, of course, as per you till date?
I think Boys Don't Cry, of course, I love, and How to Get Published in India has been my best-selling book. So I think this
Uh-huh.
is How to Get Published. Of course, if you want to learn how to write, how to then publish and then market a book also, it's got all of that. It's the only guide in India that covers everything. In addition, it also has essays from Jeffrey Archer to Shobha Day to Twinkle Khanna to Ashwin Sanghi, Meera
Wow.
Kandasamy, Durjoy Datta, ghost writers, agents like Kanishka, publishers like Penguin, um, Crossword Bookstore, for example, even self-publishing platforms. So all the
Hmm.
tips and secret, like insider tips, secrets of the publishing world, how to
Hmm.
navigate the entire journey, everything is in this book. So if it will save you like literally years of your life if you're striving to be a writer. And I wish I had this book before I started my journey. Like even Amish has blurbed it that I wish I had this book
Oh,
before I started my journey as a writer. So I think just
uh-huh.
keep that in mind that uh, if you want to get published, if you're serious about writing, pick up this book. It's worth the two, 300, 400, whatever rupees it is. It will really save you years of your life. So, and it's the only guidebook in India because it was launched at the Jaipur Lit Fest, and Shobha Day, I remember, launched it. And somebody asked, how come no book like this has been published in India? Even after it came,
Oh,
nobody else has published something like this. It's very
uh-huh.
comprehensive. And she said, because writers don't want to share their secrets. And here you've got literally the most brilliant minds in publishing and literature sharing,
Yeah.
everything. So don't do yourself,
Mhm.
not because I've written it, but do yourself a favor and get this book.
So now that you put your secrets into it, uh,
Yeah.
why did you do that? It's your hard work of years. Like, what came to you that you thought maybe the world
I think
needs it?
sharing knowledge increases knowledge. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and I've learned a lot because I also interviewed a lot of people for this, and I learned so much from it. So my knowledge base of the industry also grew. So we must stop looking at sharing knowledge as something that will deprive us. It actually they say the greatest teachers are also the greatest students. So will also teach you a lot. So
Hmm.
mind.
Okay. So, ma'am, what is your message to the next generation of people today? Like the
Um,
Indians, the upcoming generation, what is that one message that you would love to give to the world?
I think to every young woman who wants to break the mold or, just shatter it, don't wait for permission. You are not too much. You are a revolution in progress. And trust your voice. Honor the fire within you. Embrace it and celebrate it. And remember one very important thing, that glass ceilings were made to be cracked by the heels of women
Mhm.
who dance anyway. So dance away and enjoy this journey that is life.
That's so nice. So thank
Yeah.
you, ma'am. Thank you for this whole
Thank you.
conversation. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything. And I am definitely reading this book after this conversation. I am 100% convinced.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank
Bye.